In 1995, when the Sony PlayStation was in its infancy, fans of console role-playing games waited patiently for Final Fantasy VII, which wouldn't be released in North America until late 1997. In the meantime, RPG fans needed something to fill the void. Unfortunately, the early days of the PlayStation offered very little when it came to games like Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, or Breath of Fire 2, which won over many fans and created a whole new following of RPG enthusiasts. Fans of these games were practically aching for a new RPG. Thankfully, Konami came through in 1995 by releasing Suikoden, which offered exactly what these fans were looking for. With its complex story, awesome characters, fun combat, and interesting strategic battles, Suikoden has become a surprise fixture in the RPG universe. When it came to North America in 1996, RPG fans now had something amazing to consume their time. The Suikoden series has gone on to produce multiple sequels and a devoted cult following of fans, many of whom discovered the game back in 1996. Ever since then, the game's fans cannot stop replaying and discussing it, and some have even concluded that the game was even better than Final Fantasy VII, the game they were actually waiting for at the time. As a teenager, I remember pouring time into Suikoden long into the night, and I believe to this day that the game was truly something special. Suikoden was created by Yoshitaka Moriyama, who was an extremely young game designer who had only finished his studies in 1992. However, he showed promise early in his career and was handpicked by his supervisors to create his own script for an RPG. Along with game designer Junko Kawano, he created a prototype for the script that would eventually become the game Suikoden 2, but the internal console that the game was initially planned to be on was scrapped. After Konami had committed instead to developing games for Sony's upcoming console, the PlayStation, Moriyama began to work on a prequel to his original story, deciding for the time being that the original was too ambitious and complex. One of the key decisions Moriyama made early in Suikoden's development was a commitment to traditional 2D sprite graphics rather than 3D. Because the PlayStation's early 3D polygon tests had left Moriyama unimpressed, he decided that the 2D route would be best. In hindsight, I think this decision was a good one. Suikoden's graphics have held up pretty well through time, whereas the graphics of some of the 3D RPGs for PlayStation haven't stood the test of time as well. The Chinese classic novel Shui Hu Juan, most often translated to Water Margin or Outlaws of the Marsh, was a major influence on the game. From the 108 Stars of Destiny to the formation of a rebellion, the novel undoubtedly inspired many aspects of Suikoden. The novel is considered one of the 4 great classical novels of Chinese literature, and its source material was a brilliant foundation for an RPG. Suikoden even takes its name from the Japanese pronunciation of the characters that make up the name of the novel. You begin the game as Tyr McDowell, son of the famous general Teo McDowell of the Scarlet Moon Empire, and the two live in the capital city of Gregminster. As one of the Emperor Barbarossa's most trusted advisors, Teo serves the Empire with extreme loyalty. At the beginning of the game, General Teo introduces Tyr to the Emperor. Emperor Barbarossa has recently come under the influence of Windy, a mysterious sorceress who bears a likeness to the Emperor's late wife. Many within the kingdom have grown concerned over their relationship and have noticed some changes in the Emperor's temperament. Teo is sent away from Gregminster on military duty, leaving Tyr to the care of his most trusted servants, Gremio, Pan, and Cleo, and also Tyr's best friend Ted. Tyr and his friends are told to go meet Leknot at Magician's Isle to receive astral conclusions for the Empire. As he does so, Leknot tells Tyr that he will eventually have to make painful decisions. When Tyr and his friends are called to assist the Empire to confront the city of Rockland over unpaid taxes, they learn that a group of bandits have stolen the money. As they search for the bandits, just as the team is almost overcome by a powerful monster, Ted reveals that he holds a powerful rune and destroys the beast with it. However, Kanan, a servant of the Empire, takes notice of this. As the team finds and defeats the bandits, they return to Gregminster, where Ted is asked to stay behind while Tyr and his friends return home. Later, Ted stumbles home with a magical wound. It is discovered that Ted was pursued and confronted by Windy, who wishes to take his Soul Eater rune from him. It turns out that the Soul Eater is one of the 27 true runes, unique mystical objects with ties to the universe that possess unparalleled power. Ted entrusts the Soul Eater to Tyr, passing it to his young friend before Gregminster's Imperial Guard comes to seize him. From that point forward, Tyr is forced to make difficult decisions that test his commitment to Gregminster and his father. Along his adventure, he meets many friends, makes several enemies, and eventually becomes the head of the Liberation Army, a group of rebels committed to the overthrow of the very empire Tyr's father is a part of. Of all the aspects of the game, the way combat is presented in Suikoden is one of the best systems I have ever come across. Parties in Suikoden are comprised of 6 characters, and each character has either a short-ranged, medium-ranged, or long-ranged weapon. This affects whether they can attack from the front or back row. For each round of combat, the player provides inputs for each character's turn, and then both the party and the enemies act out until the next round. Combat strategy, especially for bosses, lies in understanding speed and the order of character turns. Once the player properly grasps this, he's able to know which characters should heal in certain circumstances and which should attack. Magic in Suikoden takes the form of runes, objects that can be attached to characters in your party. Runes allow for powerful attacks such as those that instantly kill an enemy or damage all enemies on the screen at the same time. However, these attacks have limited charges, and you can't continue to use rune attacks forever. Each character's magic stat determines the number of spell uses. Some characters won't even get their 4th spell of a rune because their magic rating is too low. You can only attach 1 rune to each character, and some runes allow for special attacks rather than magical spells. When several characters use a rune attack in the same round of combat, there are even special rune combinations that combine to produce a more powerful multi-rune effect. I thought this added a nice touch to the game because you barely ever see this in other RPGs. Probably the most unique command to use in battle is Unite, where several predefined character combinations can combine their attacks into a special attack that does additional damage, strikes all enemies, or produces other effects. For instance, the hero and Kai can combine their strength for a master pupil attack, which hits all enemies with double damage. The Unite system is a fun way to incentivize the player to use specific character combinations. Suikoden also features several storyline clashes between armies, where the Liberation Army is forced to defeat armies of the Empire. In these battles, you have 3 options: charge, bow, and magic. Your success at inflicting casualties with each round depends on your move versus the enemy's move. Strategists, thieves, ninjas, and merchants can also be used to boost the power of your own forces, learn the enemy's next move, or convince enemies to defect to your own army. Most significantly, there is a chance that a bad choice on the part of the player can wipe out large portions of your army, and even kill allied party members permanently. Even though these battles mostly come down to a game of rock, paper, and scissors, they are extremely fun, add variety, and provide a great touch for the story. If the strategic battles weren't enough, the game also features several occasions in which one-on-one combat occurs between a protagonist and antagonist. In these battles, the attack, defend, and desperate attack commands mostly replicates another paper, rock, scissors affair. By listening to how the enemy responds to each round, the player can usually determine his next move. These special duels provided a great way to develop the characters and make the conflict into a more personal affair. When it comes to graphics, the game is a slight step above the best-looking SNES RPGs. However, I found that the relatively simplistic graphics are executed incredibly well. The sprite animations are fantastic, and the game delivers interesting graphical spell effects in vibrant colors. The overworld and background graphics are pretty basic, but the zooming and turning camera movements in battle make you feel more engaged. Nothing will blow you away here, but the game really wasn't trying to be flashy in the first place. The music in Suikoden is definitely one of the game's best aspects as well. In fact, I think this score is one of the best RPG scores ever, especially for a non-Square Enix game. Suikoden's upbeat melodies, infectious harmonies, and memorable tracks will certainly captivate players that expect a great score of music to accompany their experience. Because the game's story encompasses many different themes and moods, there's a big contrast between the more optimistic tracks and the darker ones. I thought this dichotomy was used extremely effectively, and it leads the player to experience the emotions of the game in the way the developers intended. The music used during the opening title video is just awesome, and it sets the stage for the entire game. Other tracks I really loved included Island Fortress, Rockland, and Beautiful Golden City, but there's just a lot to love about this soundtrack in general. Suikoden offers yet another exclusive that most RPGs don't, the ability to build your own castle. At one point in the story, you defeat a dragon living in a fortress, at which point it becomes your own. The castle grows and develops as you recruit the 108 Stars of Destiny. At max, it reaches 4 floors. As you recruit certain characters, it unlocks new shops and areas as well. This was a fun avenue the game offered that keeps the player invested. Weapons in Suikoden are not bought or found, they are upgraded by spending money at a blacksmith. By the end of the game, they become extremely powerful, but they cost a lot of bits to upgrade. I think I can speak for many of Suikoden's fans when I say that the story is simply the best part of the game. On the surface, the game seems full of RPG cliches, such as the formation of a rebellion to confront an empire. However, there's also lots of twists and turns that left me shocked when I first played through this game. A few of the moments in the game will also tug at your heartstrings as well. Now, onto my criticisms. Inventory management in Suikoden is a real pain. This is because each character only has 9 slots for items, which makes it necessary to constantly pass items between characters and sell old ones. When an item is picked up in the game, it always goes to the first character available with an open item slot. Unfortunately, this adds even more time to your menu navigation. Another qualm I have is that the main story of the game is just too short. A typical playthrough lasts only about 20 hours, but the game does offer quite a bit of different side content to offset this. Namely, the ability to recruit all 108 total characters, the 108 Stars of Destiny. There's a mandatory dice minigame at one part of the game that most fans seem to like, but I thought it just stalled the story a little bit. Overall though, Suikoden proves that there's a lot more to love than there is to criticize. And that'll do it for my Suikoden retrospective and review. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments what you remember about Suikoden. Also, please check out my other videos.